Welcome back to Chin Music, our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
This holiday season, bring a little extra magic home with Aquarius Home Services, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Enjoy worry-free water that makes every moment shine, sparkling dishes, softer laundry, and refreshing worry-free drinking water. Right now, save up to 25% on a Connecticut whole home water treatment system. Schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius in Connecticut, earning the right to be recommended.
Hey, this is Randy Shaver. Along with Kevin Gorg, we host the show Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. Each week, we're going to break down the matchups for the NFL season and try to give you the best chance to win your fantasy football games each and every week. Join us for Fantasy Huddle on Talk North.
Chin Music is also presented by OnX Maps and sponsored by Minnesota Masonic Charities and Clamshell Beach Resorts. Thanks to all the sponsors who make the network and the show go. We do appreciate it. Today's lineup: Roy Smalley, former Twins star and former Twins broadcaster. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. If you like the show, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. We do appreciate that as well. And you can find most of our other shows, all of our other shows at TalkNorth.com, or on your favorite podcast app. You can also find the Viking Update Show, the John Krasinski Show, and Randy Shaver's High School Football Show on YouTube these days. So thanks for all the support. We do appreciate it. Roy, let's get to the big news of the week. Jeff Passan, a very good reporter from ESPN, reported that Byron Buxton is now willing to waive his no-trade clause. I think that's a big deal. And I'll tell you why I think it's a big deal, then I want to hear your thoughts on it. Byron had always talked like he wanted to finish his career here. And I think if he's willing to waive his no-trade clause and change his mind on that, it has to be because he believes that this team just isn't going to try to win. He wants to win while he's in his prime. He's willing to play elsewhere and not just in Atlanta, which is very close to his home in Baxley, Georgia. I've made that drive because I spent time with Byron in Baxley, Georgia. And of course, once you get a player of his caliber on the market, there will be some big shooters aiming for him. I think that's a terrible sign for where this franchise is right now. And I also think that if you trade Byron Buxton, then you're probably going to trade Joe Ryan, because I think Byron would have been, even if he was unhappy about losing, I think he would have been the proverbial good soldier about it. That's his nature. I don't know if Joe Ryan wants to be around. He didn't seem happy last summer after the trade-off. I don't think he'd be really happy or be a happy guy to be around for a bunch of young players if this team isn't trying to contend. So that's how I read the landscape today. What do you think?
Well, I think you nailed every level of it. I don't think there's a whole lot more to add. I think you're absolutely right. The only thing that I guess I would say is that yes, Byron would be a good soldier, and I don't think it's just about. I don't think the Twins are trying to win. I think he's looking at his first year of playing. As many games as he played, had as many at bats as he had this huge year, and he's looking at himself saying, it's not going to be like this too much longer, and I can't wait. I can't wait around. I want 2 or 3 years of more of my prime with a chance to win. And if he were 22, it'd be different. He might consider waiting around. The Twins make him a solemn promise to go out and get players and around him and all that. It's too late for Buck now, to get promises about what they're going to be able to do, and I think the writing on the wall is that they're going to have to totally retool, and he's now not willing to wait for that, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't either. And honestly, part of me, even if the Twins really are going to just rebuild, part of me would love watching Byron Buxton play for a good team and get into October and do some stuff. I mean, it would be weird to watch him in another uniform, but I'd kind of be happy for him.
I'd be really, really happy for him and happy for baseball. I really would. I mean, Buck playing in Fenway would be a blast to watch.
Oh man.
and Buck playing anywhere is a blast to watch. But there are certain ballparks and certain clubs, and I agree with you that seeing him. I mean, it's not like it. It's the same with every good player. I mean, I know about this World Series was so great because of the players that are in it, and you watch what Vlad Jr. did, and it just makes you happy. And then you look at. I know people don't want the Dodgers, this and that. They bought players, but the truth of the matter is the players that they bought were great, and they're wonderful to watch. I mean, Freddie, how great is it to watch Freddie Freeman? I mean, I just
and Mookie Betts playing shortstop.
And Mookie Betts playing shortstop, which is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I mean, as a former shortstop, I'm just going to say he can't do that, but he did. But he did, and so I mean, Buck playing somewhere else is going to be like that. Sure, I'd love to see him, every day in a Twins uniform, but that's not in the cards. Let's face it. If they trade Buck, they have to trade Joe Ryan. I mean, they have to. They just have to be really shrewd now about the players that they're going to get in return, and just get a boatload of young players and hope that there's some Buxtons and Freddie Freemans and Mookie Bettses in there somewhere.
Yes, all true. Here's the interesting one. Interested in your perspective on this. If they trade Byron Buxton and Joe Ryan, do they trade Pablo Lopez because they get a lot for him, and that pares the salary cap, the payroll down even farther, and you're going complete rebuild? You'll have a massive number of quality young players if they make the right trades. Or do you keep Pablo because he's such a good guy, such a leader? He'd be such a good influence on young players around him.
Both of those options are good ones. I mean, I don't know a definitive answer to that. I mean, they can't keep him for 10 extra wins that the team's going to have.
Right.
Because he's there. I mean, 10 wins is not going to stem the tide of people that don't go out to the ballpark, to watch the Twins because they've decimated the club. Right? I mean, they've done that. They've decimated the club. That's already done. And so I think the smart thing now is just go for total decimation and hope that the players that you get in return happen big really fast. But they're just going to have to look at that and say, we can't keep Pablo, because he's going to put people in the stands for 10 extra wins. You just have to figure out what it is that you want the most. Do you think that you have a chance to have some pitchers come up and Pablo, and you need Pablo just to lead that group, whatever it is? And I don't know what the answer is to that. I think that's a legitimate thought. That let's keep Pablo and have him show what his preparation, how he goes out and battles, what he does when he has good stuff, what he does when he doesn't have his good stuff, because we've got X, Y, and Z starting pitchers that we think are going to be good, and they really need him. They need to be able to watch him. I don't know. Is that more valuable than trading Pablo and getting two really good players in return? I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I don't either. And maybe the answer is, maybe the Twins just, in this case, say, you really do have to give us two phenomenal young players, or we just aren't going to trade. Maybe they just set the bar higher because they wouldn't mind having Pablo around than they do for someone like Joe Ryan, who you probably need to move on from if you're not trying to win.
Well, I think that's a good point, and I think you have to. The front office has to be really good at evaluating the talent that they're thinking about trading and what it means to the Twins club, and what they think that the value would be to another club, and make that comparable, right? I mean, teams always tend to think that their players are more valuable than other teams think their players are, right? But in this case, with all three of the guys that we're talking about, but especially Pablo and Buck, I think that you have to stand firm on getting value that is worthy of those guys, or you don't do it. And as disgruntled and Joe Ryan to some degree too, as disgruntled as they may be, I think you got to insist on big value, or it's going to be a travesty.
Yes, no question about it. Now, we've been through this before. Now, we haven't. The problem with rebuilding is, even if you get good young players, and even if you go about it the quote unquote right way, you need a wave. You need a wave of young players to come along who are committed to winning, who have the talent. And man, I just remember covering the bad teams in the 90s. And then again, early in, like, from 2011 to about 2014, 15. And it's just hard to time it up right. It's hard to get enough good players at a young age playing well enough to support a winner. And no matter how many good prospects you have, that's just hard to do. And, just as somebody who likes watching baseball, I don't want to go back to 1998 and 1999, where you're just saying, okay, we're just going to lose 100 games and use this as a laboratory for developing young players. I understand the process. I've seen it up close, and eventually it can work, but man, it's a long process.
Yeah, it's a really long process. It really is. And that's really what we're talking about. I mean, who do you keep and to try and have some stability while the young players develop? But I don't know as much as you and Lavelle, for example, know about the real chances of stardom from in a relative hurry. Any of the prospects that the Twins have in AAA or even AA right now. My sense is that it's not enough to support Pablo and Joe Ryan and Buck, and so it's, I just don't know of a way around it. It's a numbers game, and you have to get as high a value and talent in return for trades as you can, and hope you did it right. I mean, that's really because I don't think it'd be one thing to say this is a fairly complete team if we just have two guys come up from AAA and or like one pitcher and two position players come up and really become good major league players. We've got something here. I don't have the impression that this team is close enough to say it's only going to take a couple of young guys. I mean, they need a lot of talent, young talent. It's out there. We've seen it. We saw it in the World Series. We saw some of the kids that Toronto has and other clubs in the postseason. I mean, they found some players. There's no question. There's some really, really good young players coming to other teams. And the Twins, my impression is the Twins don't have quite have the same caliber as some of these teams that have really hit the gold ring on a couple of players. So they're going to have to trade players and hope they do it right.
Let's talk about a couple of the young players they do have who could make a difference. First, we do want to tell you about Onyx Hunt. Have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that, or maybe need to know exactly where a property line runs? That's where Onyx Hunt comes in, and it's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country, from farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property. This app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started. Thanks also to Minnesota Masonic Charities.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
And here's Talk North star Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
Here's the sad thing about the top prospects is Jenkins looks like a phenomenal talent. And guess what? He's been hurt a lot. Emma Rodriguez looks like a phenomenal talent. And he's been hurt a lot. So, we've already seen this with Royce Lewis, where Royce is a phenomenal talent and he's played like a superstar for stretches. And he had a lot of injuries. And a guy who thought that he would never experience a slump, as soon as he said he'd never experience a slump, went into one of the worst slumps we've ever seen. Maybe because he didn't have that many at-bats in the minor leagues. Who knows? So as excited as you can get about Walker Jenkins or Emma Rodriguez's talent, we don't know if they have enough at-bats to really be ready to hit major league pitching and be somebody you can count on. And then Kalen Culpepper, a wonderful shortstop prospect who can hit for power. We just don't know how far away he is or if he's really going to be able to stay at shortstop. And then Royce Lewis, Royce could be the best player on this team. He could be the person they build around, or he could be somebody who's, they're just going to be filled with regret when they just let him go at some point. I mean, the spectrum of possibilities for Royce Lewis at this moment is incredibly wide.
It really is. And you've hit on the whole problem with the Twins' big league roster in the field is that there are a lot of what would you say, really good young talent, we think. And they're in various stages of proving to us that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about the outfield, Trevor Larnach. He's done some really nice things. I watch him and I think, man, he's got a lot of talent to hit, and he's if he could just take the next step or two. And we've been saying that for quite a while now. The same can be said about the other big left-hand hitter on the corner in right field.
Wallner, yeah.
Wallner. And incredible talent to hit the ball hard and hit it a long ways. And we don't know. We just don't know. So let's say Walker Jenkins is a phenom. He's ready and he can replace Buck, let's say, and with, not be Buck right away, but be a terrific center fielder and be the hitter we think is going to be and all that. Okay, so you've just traded Buck for Walker Jenkins. You haven't really done anything with left field. You haven't done anything with right field. And then you go to the infield and you look at Royce Lewis and you go, well, don't know. Really don't know. And then, and Luke Keeschel, I think, is the furthest along, in my view, to say, yeah, that's really solid. I see mechanics and I see things there that would make me think that he's going to be a yes answer more than than the question mark, that the other ones are. And it's the same way with the shortstop. He's a switch hitter, or I guess he's going to play shortstop, and he's a switch hitter, and he's shown some things, but we just don't know, and so that's the problem. And it's like, what do you do with trading the guys that they have that can really bring some value, who do you go get? Because you have to make some decisions on a whole lot of question marks, around the field. And I think they're in a really tough spot.
Agreed. All right. We will get back to baseball topics next week here on Chin Music. We like talking about music as well on this show. We're old guys who like old music. We like some new music too. But unless you have something you want to start us off with on the Booze and Blues segment, I do have a topic.
No, the only thing that I would say is we got a message from on X from a real devoted listener.
Oh, okay, good.
Mentioning that Steve Cropper died and wanted to, and wanted to know if we had any stories or anything to say about Steve Cropper. And I just think that we ought to acknowledge our listener, Dennis Sundley. Thanks a lot, Dennis, for how what a loyal listener you are, and also a music fan, and asking about Cropper, because I know, kind of under the radar. Maybe one of those back when we were doing underappreciated talents. I mean, Steve Cropper has been around, all the great ones, and has played some great stuff. And I will just say, if everybody knows that Soul Man, everybody thinks about the Blues Brothers and stuff, but the original Soul Man, he plays that great by Sam and Dave, and Steve Cropper played guitar. They're the rhythm section with Booker T and the MGs played with with all those guys, with the Blues Brothers and Sam and Dave. And when they won chorus, I'm a soul man, and Steve Cropper plays that down down down, and one of the guys goes, "Play it, Steve." Yep. I mean, that's about as famous a guitar.
Sam Moore tell him play it, Steve. In fact, I'm a Springsteen guy, and that my favorite concert video, the 25th anniversary of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Springsteen brings up Sam Moore to play Soul Man and I'm Coming, and Sam Moore calls out, "Play it, Steve," to Steve Van Zandt, who's played lead on that.
Oh yeah, that was a Steve Cropper call out, and that's about as iconic as you can get.
Yes, as a guitarist, I'm impressed by those who can play really fast. Everybody would love to be able to play like Eddie Van Halen. Most people who try to play like that fail, or they can play that fast, but they can't play melodically. They can't do anything that I find interesting. The people I really admire are the Steve Croppers, the Mike Campbells, guys who make every note count. And Steve and Joe Walsh is a bit like that too. I remember watching a video of U2 like seeking out, they were looking for inspiration on a certain song. They basically went out and found Joe Walsh and was like, "God, what do we play right here to make this song?" And Joe Walsh listens to the song a few times. He plays like this 3-note little lead. And they're like, "That's it. Those are the notes we've been looking for." It's so magical, especially when you're in, for Steve, he always played with great artists in large bands. He played a Telecaster because Telecasters cut through the mix like nothing else. And, they have that kind of that they can be funky. They can be really clear and pretty. They're great rhythm guitars. And he just always played the right note, And another one thing I will recommend is, I can't remember what it's called, but you'll be able to figure it out. A bunch of artists honored Bob Dylan with a concert at Madison Square Garden back in the day. Yep. And they had all these great artists come up and play their favorite Dylan songs. And then Dylan came up at the end and played with those guys. And the two guitarists on stage the entire time, along with Duck Dunn playing bass, were G.E. Smith, who's a genius, and toured with Dylan. He used to be on Saturday Night Live, amazing player, and Steve Cropper. And watching G.E. Smith and Steve Cropper play all these great songs with all these great artists is such a treat. And in light of Steve Cropper's passing, I would recommend going and checking that out as soon as possible.
Yeah, totally agree with everything you said. That's it. And sorry to usurp your time. I still want to hear about what idea you had.
You know what? I'm going to save it now because it's going to be a long
Sorry.
week talking about baseball. So we're going to need content. I'm going to. I read a lot about backstories, bands, histories, because sports, we kind of know how things work, right? You know how players get better. You know how players are found. You know how players fit in, and there's always some mystery what's really happening behind the scenes, but we also have a pretty good picture of how things work behind the scenes. The music world is crazy, right? You can have somebody who's one of the greatest guitarists in the world and he can go undiscovered, or he can go underappreciated his entire life. That one hit that breaks you through. Same thing with bands. And so I'll tease next week's Chin Music portion of the show next week. CCR and the band, two of the greatest bands of their era, two of the most popular bands of their era, two of the most respected bands of their era. Great songwriters, great musicianship. Both broke up for pretty much the same reason, and I'll tell you what that reason is next week. How about that for a tease?
That's awesome. I can't wait.
Beautiful. Any other baseball thoughts to wrap us up as we head into probably going to be another quiet week for the Twins?
No, I don't have anything more. I think we talked about some heavy stuff here, and it's going to be real interesting to see how that plays out. And my sense is we're not going to know how anything plays out for 3 years.
Yeah, I think that's right. We will continue talking about the young players, the possibilities, the baseball landscape, Twins popularity, all that stuff. We'll continue to talk about music and booze and everything else we like here. We do appreciate you listening so much. Thanks so much. Thanks, Dennis, for checking in. Dennis, I didn't see your tweet. There's something going on with my social media where I don't see much anymore. I don't know if I'm not using it right or if they screwed up the algorithm or whatever. So I apologize for not seeing it. We appreciate the question. Keep sending them in and we'll try to get them on the air. Thanks again to everyone. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.